much right now. Russia's responsible.
That's right. Can't do much right now. That was President Biden yesterday refusing to take any ownership of the record high gas prices across the country that have been hitting Americans' wallets throughout his entire presidency. Ironically, he said that in Texas, a state that has over 46 billion barrels of untapped oil, in addition to, check this, 281 trillion, that's right, trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 20 billion barrels of natural gas liquids. Joining us now is Texas Senator and member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, I got to tell you, that was probably not the best place to say that. In Texas, with all of that natural energy sitting under your feet.
Well, I think that's exactly right. And I think every Texan and most Americans listening to that knew that that was, to use a technical Texas term, total BS. What he's saying makes no sense. And this is the White House's talking point now. They recognize the American people are unhappy with inflation skyrocketing. And in particular are unhappy with the massive increase in gasoline prices. And so the White House is now trying to say it's all Russia's part. Now, Sean, you know something about the Democrats for 4 years chanting Russia, Russia, Russia. They're doing it again. But in this instance, look, Joe Biden, the Pottery Barn rule still applies. You break it, you own it. And Joe Biden has broken the economy. When it comes to energy, Joe Biden has declared war on American oil and gas, on American energy. The first day in office, he shut down the Keystone Pipeline. That killed 11,000 high-paying jobs. It killed 8,000 union jobs with a stroke of a pen. First day in office, he halted all new leases on federal lands, both onshore and offshore. Shortly thereafter, he halted development in ANWR, a very small region of Alaska that has enormous petroleum resources. And he has unleashed the federal regulatory agencies on oil and gas producers like a swarm of locusts. And the result has been staggering. You know, in 2019, America became energy independent, the number one producer of oil and gas in the world, a net energy exporter. That was under President Trump and a Republican Congress. In 2021, last year, for the first time since then, we lost the status of energy independence. We're now a net energy importer because the rig count in the United States plummeted. We're producing less. And the result, when you produce a whole lot less oil, is gasoline prices skyrocket. They've gone up 48% before Putin invaded Ukraine. And that is the direct result of Joe Biden's disastrous policies on energy.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about sanctions. You were tough on sanctions before sanctions is cool. Everybody now is talking about sanctions. The administration is trying to talk tough about sanctions. But you were talking tough on sanctions during the Trump administration. They took your advice back then. They sanctioned Nord Stream 2 because Ted Cruz said, hey, let's get tough on Nord Stream 2 back then. They listened to you. We were tough then. Joe Biden took the Ted Cruz sanctions off. And you said, no, I'm going to force votes on this. I'm going to make you guys stick around. You stayed with this. They mocked you. They said, no, we're not going to do this. You held everybody's feet to the fire, Ted Cruz. And you know what? Finally, now everyone's running around going, yeah, we got to be tough on sanctions. It was you who, way before anybody thought this was cool, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you've been doing this. I got to feel like you're sitting here going, hello, where were you guys when I was arguing about this before? I mean, and I know it's tough now, but all of these Democrats now are raising their hand going, yep, we should be tough on Ukraine. Yep. I don't know how you look these guys straight in the face and say, hi, my name's Ted Cruz. I've been fighting for this. The administration, sir, sent people to lobby against your efforts.
Yes. Sean, you're exactly right. And it is maddening and hypocritical on the Democrats' part. Just to explain a little bit of history for the folks watching. Putin didn't wake up yesterday and decide he wanted to invade Ukraine. He's wanted to invade Ukraine for decades. And in 2014, he did. He invaded Ukraine. He invaded Crimea, the southern part of Ukraine. But he didn't invade the entire country. Why? Because Russia's major source of revenue is selling oil and natural gas. And the natural gas runs on pipelines that run right through the middle of Ukraine. And if he invaded Ukraine, he risked damaging or destroying those pipelines, which would mean he couldn't get his gas to Europe. So he stopped. The next year, 2015, Putin began building Nord Stream 2. Nord Stream 2 is an undersea pipeline that goes directly from Russia to Germany, and it skips Ukraine. It goes around Ukraine. The reason Putin was building Nord Stream 2 was so that he could invade Ukraine, because once that pipeline went online, he could get his gas to Europe and not worry about the tanks rolling in on Ukraine. In 2019, much of Washington was saying there's nothing we can do to stop this. This is really bad, but we can't stop it. I authored bipartisan sanctions to stop Nord Stream 2, passed them overwhelmingly through both houses of Congress. President Trump, as you noted, signed the sanctions legislation, and Putin stopped building the pipeline literally the day that President Trump signed my sanctions legislation. For over a year, the pipeline was dead. Putin didn't invade Ukraine. Joe Biden became president on January 20th, 2021. And 4 days later, Putin began again deep sea construction of Nord Stream 2. Biden formally waived the sanctions a few months later, basically giving Putin this pipeline and giving him a green light invitation to invade. This weekend, Sean, I joined with the other senators in a video conference call with President Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. He told us on this call that if the United States, if Biden had sanctioned Nord Stream 2 last year, as you know, I was fighting over and over and over again last year for the sanctions. Zelensky said if those sanctions had been put in place, Russia would not have invaded Ukraine. This disaster, this war is Joe Biden's fault.
I know, and I can't believe, I mean, it's literally right there for everyone to see. And I watch all these people run around talking about how tough they want to be on these sanctions. And it's like, you had the opportunity to do it. Ted Cruz gave it to you. You undid it. And now you pretend like it's somehow a new thing. I do want to pivot, though, and talk. The government runs out of funding on Friday. The House has gone off on a taxpayer-funded party retreat off to Philadelphia. They took an Amtrak up there today. They sent two bills to you guys. One, a $1.3 trillion bill that's got $10 billion of money to help Ukraine, and then a continuing resolution that says, hey, if you don't do that, we'll keep the government funded until we get back for 4 days. What are you guys going to do, and where does this thing end up?
You know, at this point, it's not clear. We just got the massive omnibus bill, so my staff is going through
2,700 pages, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, and I'm confident there's a lot of garbage in there, but we're trying to go through and figure out what it is because they drafted it in secret, so we're just looking at it and analyzing it now. I don't know what the Senate will end up doing at this point, whether they will pass a short-term CR through the weekend or try to move this omnibus. I expect they'll do one or the other. But at this point, we haven't been told which direction the Senate's going to try to go.
I can't believe you can pass a 2,700 page bill, 1.3 trillion, and they kind of go, here it is. You guys pass it. Enjoy the weekend. I hope Republicans stand up. We can pass the $10 billion for Ukraine as a standalone. And not be held hostage to the Democrats' tactics like this. But, Senator, before I go, I know Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson was up on the Hill. I wanted to philosophically, you've been a big player in all of these confirmation hearings going back some time. Are Republicans going to really make an effort to scrutinize her judicial record? I know there's a lot of pundits that say Republicans should just give her a pass. It's a one-for-one trade with Breyer. What do you think the role of Senate Republicans should be?
Look, I hope we have a very vigorous confirmation hearing. I sat down and met with Ketanji Brown Jackson yesterday in my office, spent about an hour with her. I've known her a long time. We were actually in law school together. She was a year behind me in law school. We were both in law review together. So we were friendly, but didn't know each other well. I think we should vigorously scrutinize her record. Now, one thing I can promise you, we're not going to replay the political circus the Democrats gave us with Justice Kavanaugh. You're not going to see Republicans go into the gutter. You're not going to see personal smears. You're not going to see the nastiness. But we do have a responsibility to carefully, to vigorously vet her record. You know, as you know, a couple of years ago, I wrote a book called One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. And in the book, every chapter talks about a different constitutional right. There's a chapter on free speech, a chapter on religious liberty, a chapter on the Second Amendment. And the book walks through the big landmark cases of the court, many of which I was privileged to litigate. And it goes through how major case after major case after major case was decided 5-4, that one vote can make the difference between whether our rights are protected or taken away. And so we have a responsibility to do everything we can to shine a light on her record, on her approach, to understand what kind of justice she'd be.
Okay. So we probably won't find out if she likes beer, is what you're telling me.
Well, I will tell you what I discovered, which is that apparently she doesn't like coffee. So I served her Cuban coffee. You know, as a Cuban, I do that sometimes in the office. I brought out Cuban coffee, and I discovered she's not a coffee drinker, which is, as a Cuban American, I'm kind of suspicious of anyone that doesn't drink coffee, but that may not be a reason to vote.
Okay. Senator Ted Cruz, thanks for fighting the fight and everything you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. Take care.